Hey, comic lovers, greetings and salutations, and Merry Christmas, or Happy Hanukkah. However you celebrate the holiday season, I don't care. I'm just glad you guys took a little time out of your holiday schedule to spend with me, EMoney, and the old man right here. Alright, so we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. We got some news coming out from DC and Warner Brothers again. And it's not really encouraging news, to say the least.
No, it's got me worried.
Yep. So we have all that, and we have some exciting comic book titles to share with you, some new stuff, and something that hasn't been done in a long time, as far as I know.
Wow.
And we're looking forward to talking about it. Also, we're gonna tell you guys a little bit about what the old man and I have planned for the new year. All right.
I didn't have a whole lot planned for the new year.
No. Well, we have a few things planned.
All right.
Okay. Grace, she passed away 30 years ago. This is Back Issues. Alright, so before we get started today, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, turn on notifications, give us a thumbs up, and if you like, leave us a comment. You can give your 2 cents about some of these news stories we're going to be covering, or these comic books, or you can just say hi.
I dare you to leave a comment.
Mm-hmm.
I double dog dare you.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Alright, so the big news this week, and it's a lot of the same as it was last week. Well, after announcing that Wonder Woman 3 will not be moving forward, it was also announced last week that Henry Cavill will not be returning to the role of Superman, despite that Black Adam mid-credit scene.
And they decided they're going to go with a younger Superman story?
Mm-hmm. Gunn will be rebooting Superman, again, writing the script himself about a younger version of the hero, but says that it will not be another origin movie.
Well, everybody don't need to hear about Krypton blowing
Yeah, I
up.
mean, I tell people we don't need another Superman origin story.
Don't need
Everyone knows Superman's origin.
Don't need another Batman origin story.
My mother knows Superman's origin story. And if you knew my mother, you would know that's saying something. All right? And after all the cancellations that have happened, it seems obvious that Gunn is planning to reboot the DCU altogether with an all-new cast of heroes.
Well, you know what surprised me?
Mm-hmm.
Was, I don't know if it's rumor or fact or whatever, but I read somewhere that they talked to Dwayne Johnson and Black Adam 2 is not on the book.
Not on the books either. I mean, with the mediocre success of Black Adam at the box office, I kind of understand that move, but it's still disappointing all the same.
You got to do something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you don't, it's kind of like a YouTube channel. If you don't have any content, people are going to walk away and quit watching.
Mm-hmm.
So DC and whatever universe they're going to go with, they need to get something in front of the public, or they might as well just give it up.
All right. And what especially sucks about this move is, Cavill left The Witcher so that he could focus on Superman. I mean, I think he may have said that he didn't leave The Witcher because of Superman, but he left The Witcher because of Superman.
Well, he's already moved on.
Right.
I mean, he's got some 40K project.
Are you sure? Because I
sure.
I thought that was kind of a joke where it was a modeling YouTube channel that he's gonna do, as a side project.
It could be, but what I read was he's going to produce, direct. I mean, now that I'm saying that, it's starting to sound like, yeah, he's going to paint models.
Right. Well, now he's lost both roles, which sucks for everyone all around.
And it really makes me sad because a Witcher comic book's coming out next week, or this week.
Well, in a related story, Zachary Levi's future in the DCU is also in question, but the actor seems fairly confident that Gunn is going to keep him around. One of Levi's Twitter followers expressed their disappointment that he might be leaving the role, and he responded with the following. "Oh, I wouldn't go believing everything you see on the internet. I'm Gucci, Ash," Ash being the person who tweeted. "We all Gucci." Now, I'm not really sure what that means, but it sounds like Levi's confident he's going to stick around, and Gunn is going to keep him in the DCU. So time will tell if he has the right to be that confident. So, and you know what? You know, another problem this reboot leaves is, you'll recall when Disney purchased Fox and everyone knew that the Fox X-Men franchise was coming to an end. And so, they released X-Men Dark Phoenix to a disappointed box office. And New Mutants didn't even get a theatrical release, although that was partially due to the pandemic. So, a lot of people, I think a lot of people have a negative review of Dark Phoenix, mainly because it was a victim of bad timing. I mean, personally, I think it was an okay X-Men movie.
It was all right.
Yeah. And, just came out at the wrong time because, everyone knew it was ending, so they didn't want to invest the money in going to see it.
Well, they'd already walked away. Even if they went and saw it, they didn't care. Because they knew that was the end.
If they didn't know, I think Dark Phoenix would have done much better at the box office. So, what does that mean for the remaining DCU films that are still on the schedule?
Yeah, if you know there's not going to be a next movie in the franchise, how excited are you to go see the one that's coming out?
Well, you see, that's the thing. I mean, Shazam, Fury of the Gods, The Flash, and Aquaman, The Lost Kingdom are all set to be released next year. And, are they on track to share the same fate as Dark Phoenix did?
Hope not.
I mean, are we really at a point where we cannot just enjoy a film based on its own merit simply because it's not part of a continuing bigger universe anymore?
Yes.
I guess so.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess that's where we're at. If the movie is supposed to be part of a shared continuity that's no longer, moving forward, then you're just like,
yeah.
Well,
are you going to go see Iron Man 5 if you know it's got nothing to do with what's going on in the rest of the universe?
Well, I mean, the Batman, didn't have, anything to do with the DCU or anything.
You can't compare Batman to any other DC franchise. Because just like in the comics, Batman's boss.
Okay.
Batman can do no wrong. If they make a Batman movie and they put me as the lead, people are going to go see it because it's freaking Batman. I'm telling you.
Yeah. So, all these movies, we know that, their shared universe is ending, so, how well are they going to do at the box office? We'll see.
Well, just so you know, I'm the Batman.
No, you're not. No. I mean,
I can't sell it.
Even if you had enough startup capital, you couldn't be Batman.
No, I can't be Batman.
No. I mean, you can maybe, no, not even that. You couldn't even be Alfred's Batman.
No.
All right, so that's gonna do it for entertainment news this week.
Can we manage to do a episode of Back Issues where the entertainment news is good?
Well, I've given, I think the word is a lot of latitude with James Gunn. Is that the right word?
Okay.
A lot of leeway. A lot of benefit of the doubt. But I don't know. It's like every move he makes, it's like, why, Gunn? Why?
I give it 2 years, and either it's going to come back or it's going to be totally dead.
Right. So, prove me wrong, James. Prove me wrong. All right, that's going to do it for entertainment news. Now, let's get into some comic book reviews. All right, so first up on our comic book reviews, we have our mentions, and actually, we only have one mention this week.
Well, it was a short week. We only had 9 comics that we read this week, so that's understandable. But coming out from Image, we have a new book, and this is Nightclub #1.
All right. So, in Nightclub, we meet a young, or not that young in terms of being a teenager. We have a teenager named Danny and his friends. And Danny, being a victim of, I guess the word is societal norms.
Yeah, he wants to be internet famous.
Right. He has aspirations of being a YouTube star and making lots of money off of it. Which, as EMoney and the old man can attest to you, that it's not as easy as it looks.
Not at all. Still stuck around 910 subscribers.
Yeah, which, by the way, subscribe.
Help!
Yeah. Okay. So, Well, Danny is going about it in a different way. He's not going to host a show on YouTube. He is going to post a bunch of death-defying stunts that he wants to do on the internet. Well, things don't go too well for old Danny. And he is on his bike. He trips over a pipe, I think, and he falls off the roof of a fairly tall building. Not so tall that it kills him, but enough that it almost does.
Have I ever told you the 5 P's?
Probably, but refresh my memory.
Proper planning prevents poor performance.
Well,
he didn't plan that out so good.
And I've seen other experienced extreme sports people do stunts like this, but they were highly experienced, and it probably took him a few tries. Danny,
and they planned it out so if it didn't work, they didn't die.
Right. Danny doesn't strike me as a guy who planned things out well. So he winds up in the hospital, and I believe, he broke his neck and his back in 3 places. So things don't look too good for old Danny.
Not going to be doing a lot more stunts.
Well, later that night, he has a visitor, and this visitor turns out to be a creature of the night.
We're talking the fanged kind?
Yep, the fanged kind.
Yeah.
So Danny wakes up at a new location, and the guy introduces himself as Detective Nick Lascaris.
That's different. You got a cop who's a vampire.
Yeah, I didn't know the Philadelphia police had a vampire division.
Hey, everybody's got to have a monster squad.
I guess you wouldn't talk too much about that if you did.
I doubt it's going to get out to the public.
All right, so apparently the detective wants to recruit Danny for an army that he's building. Now, whether it's this army is in the name of law enforcement or, Nick has his own aspirations, we don't know yet. Well, Danny doesn't believe what's going on, and he's scared, and he runs out outside in the daytime, and that doesn't go well for him. So the detective tries to explain to Danny everything that's going on, and how he needs to use his newfound powers. Now, one thing I thought that was interesting here was that if you ever seen a movie or a TV show where a person either becomes a vampire or is introduced to the vampire world, and they're asking all these questions, and they ask the expert is like, can I burn up when I walk into the sun? Can I go into holy places? Are crosses gonna burn me? And all this other stuff.
What about garlic? That's the one that I find entertaining.
Yeah, garlic, that's another thing. Now, usually in the movies, they say something like, don't believe everything you see in movies. Well, this guy, he's the opposite. All those things in movies that get vampires killed, don't do those things, is what he tells Danny. So, and, he introduces a few things that are either sparingly done in vampire lore or, might be new altogether. Like the ability to control rats,
Well, that goes way back. That's been around for a while, but you're right. They don't use it much nowadays.
And, being able to turn into mist.
Same thing.
Yeah.
That's old school.
And, well, he climbs a building. At first, Danny's like climbing it like Spider-Man. But, then the detective tells him he doesn't have to do that. He says, you can walk up the building with your hands in your pocket if you want to. So, yeah, a lot of different or less used lore in this version. So, near the end of the issue, Danny, having become a vampire, he still has aspirations of succeeding in his old life. So
he's gonna have a hard time explaining how he's walking around.
Right. So, time will tell how that goes for him. But very interesting premise. It starts out basic, kid becomes a vampire, but I think it has the potential to be something unique. So
on this cover and several other variants, there's 3 guys in masks. I want to get to that.
Yeah. So Nightclub number 1 ends up with
3.5 shields.
3.5 shields out of 5.
Now we will be getting the second issue of this, so we'll let you know.
Right. All right. So that's our mentions for this week. Now on to our top 3.
All right. If anybody knows the old man, they know he's a huge fan of Frank Frazetta. a lot of the big fantasy artists, now they're all slipping my mind.
Elliot.
Okay.
Okay.
I met him in Baltimore. Bell.
Bernie.
Bernie Wrightson, just a great artist, but not somebody I'd categorize as purely fantasy artist. Married to Julie Bell. Boris Vallejo.
Okay.
Boris Vallejo. But Frank Frazetta is my number one guy. He's my Bernie Wrightson in fantasy art. But
Okay.
any rate, so if you follow the channel, you know we get and read and sometimes review Frank Frazetta's Death Dealer, which is fantasy. Well, Frank did a lot of science fiction art too. So now there's a new comic out based on science fiction stories called Frank Frazetta's Dawn Attack. So we checked it out, and it came in at number 3.
Okay, so Frank Frazetta's Dawn. I mean, it is science fiction, I guess, but I mean,
You got robots and spaceships.
right. But in a lot of science fiction, if it's like post-apocalyptic, if it goes far enough into the future, it almost seems to be fantasy anyways.
Well, because all the technology's died out.
Right.
But in this case, they still have technology.
Ralph Bakshi's Wizards was a post-apocalyptic story. What was that? Chronicles of Shannara Chronicles. Also, it was fantasy in a post-apocalyptic world from thousands of years in the future. So yeah, I mean, basically like this. Okay, so the story follows our hero, who is a princess, and she has a fashion sense where she dresses in skimpy bikinis and wears a Valkyrie helmet.
I mean, who wouldn't do that?
Well, nobody else in the story apparently dresses like that, but she does it herself. And I'm sorry, but the helmet is completely impractical.
It's just a bigger version of Thor's original helmet.
Well, it's less practical than Thor's. Okay, so she is the princess of this community, and years ago, her father left on a ship, that being a spaceship, where he was looking for a new home for his people, and he hasn't returned since. Now, apparently, the community, in addition to having difficulty in just the environment they live in, but there's also an enemy, an unnamed enemy that attacked them years before, in which they barely survived, and now rumors are swirling that they may be attacking again.
They basically live every day preparing to defend themselves against the next attack.
Right. And, they don't believe they have the numbers to withstand another attack like they did before. So, the princess's sister-in-law, who is an engineer, rebuilds an old ship, and they have the coordinates to where her father last jumped. And she says she's going to take off on the ship, find her father, and hopefully find her people a new home. So waiting to see how that turns out. So Frank Frazetta's Dawn Attack number 1 ends up at our number 3 spot with.
We rounded it up to 4 shields.
4 shields.
All right, the number 2 spot. This cat has had so many different volumes of comic books that it's just nuts. But got a new volume, the Invincible Iron Man number 1.
Okay, I mean it's number 1 here, but in the grand scheme of things, this is actually issue number 651.
Yeah, but what do they include? Do they include just the Invincible Iron Man? Do they include Iron Man? Do they include Tony Stark, director of S.H.I.E.L.D.? I mean, there's been so many different books. Who the hell knows?
Well, this story is a little bit of a return to basics for Tony Stark, because you have him. He is working on a new or different Iron Man suit in a unassuming headquarters.
Well, he's down to 1 suit.
Yeah. So he's working, and it turns out, oh, hang on. It says, it's down to just the one, the Mark 70, that's what it says. So then he's attacked. His building explodes. And
don't ever live in a building that houses a superhero.
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah. So one of his neighbors ends up dying. Neighbor he didn't even know. So Tony wakes up in the hospital, and he covers the funeral expenses for his neighbor. Then apparently he's being sued by a bunch of people, and a lot of the lawsuits are what's the word? Frivolous? Yeah, frivolous lawsuits, because a lot of these people, they weren't even around when the explosion happened.
Well, if you blow up my apartment, I'd want it to be reimbursed.
So, Tony's lawyer, Jennifer Walters, is giving him some legal... Oh, right. And gives him some legal advice, and, Tony is just, wants it to be done, and he says, just pay him off. So, Jennifer's like, well, what if, we hit bedrock on your checking account? And Tony just nonchalantly says, well, I guess I'll have to go invent something then.
Must be nice to have that as a backup.
Right? Another thing that is a return to basics on this is that, Tony's testing out the Mark 70, and he gets attacked by another guy in a metal suit. And so this guy is calling himself Messenger. And, he attacks Tony, and, they have a little fight above the skies of New York. And at first, Tony is convinced that the guy is just a drone. So he subdues him and takes off the helmet, and, he gets a startling revelation.
It's not a drone.
Yeah. So, there's obviously a bigger conspiracy out here of someone with, bigger resources than just a metal suit is out to get Tony. Another return to basics on this story is, Tony's alcohol problems have not been explored in the comic books, or not the ones I've read in a long time.
Hey, once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic.
So, that gets talked about in this issue. So, very interesting stuff, and, it's nice to see, old storylines get explored in a new way again. So, the Invincible Iron Man #1 ends up at our #2 spot with...
Also, four shields rounded up.
Rounded up.
Next.
All right.
EMoney's pretty excited about this one. And I did choose the Jim Lee variant.
Of course you did.
Because I like Jim Lee. Well, I kind of thought maybe a McFarlane cover. But I like the Jim Lee cover, so that's the one I got. And this would be Batman Spawn #1.
Okay, so this is, a little... encouraging, because you don't see a whole lot of crossover stories anymore.
And EMoney, whether it's comic books, TV shows, or movies, loves crossovers. He really likes them.
And you don't see them much anymore, not in comic book form, because they used to do them all the time in the 90s, and a lot of stuff before that. I mean, you had the Marvel vs. DC event, and then after that they had the all access stories, and then unlimited access stories. And, then you had the smaller, one-off events. I remember there was an Elseworld story where Batman meets Captain America in World War II. And then you have a Superman Silver Surfer team-up. There was Batman Daredevil, Batman Spider-Man. All this cool stuff they did back in the 90s. But now, with the comic book companies going all corporate nowadays...
Not just corporate, major corporate.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so much red tape to get through now that it's just not even worth doing.
I would imagine everybody's greedy, too. Well, if we're going to do a comic book and split it up, we want $1 bazillion.
Right. Well, I suppose that Image is still small time enough that, they get excited about a boost in sales with Batman.
As far as I'm concerned, they're one of the bigs.
Okay.
They're just not owned by a major corporation.
Well, I'll bet you that the sales figures for this are bigger than any of the other Spawn titles this month. I'll bet you.
No bet.
Okay. Okay, so the story starts off with, and you may recall, or you may know, that Batman and Spawn have very similar origin stories. in which their story began with the death of a loved one. The only difference being that Spawn had to go through actual hell to get where he is. So Batman visits the alley of where his parents were murdered on the anniversary of their death. And at first, he is greeted by a member of the Court of Owls. And, he says a few things to him, and then he suddenly disappears. And then all of a sudden, Spawn is there. And Batman right away notices that there's something strange about the alley. I mean, Batman knows every square inch of this alley. And, things are there that shouldn't be, not just Spawn and the Court of Owls guy. So, the two heroes, that's not really the right word, the two characters start fighting, and apparently there are these dead zones in different corners of the world. Hidden spaces where warriors from heaven or hell are rendered useless. And Batman, of course, remains the same. So while Spawn has an advantage over Batman at first, when he enters into this dead zone, Batman takes control. You ever see movies where the bad guys throw their best shot at the good guy, and when they're done, the hero goes, "My turn." Well, basically is what happens here. So the two of them trade blows back and forth because even without Spawn's powers, he's still a pretty formidable fighter. So finally, Batman, being the detective that he is, discovers that something's wrong here and that they've both been lied to. Spawn believes that Batman was an actual demon who held the soul of his dead wife, which obviously is not the case. So Batman, when they cross the dead zone, Batman's inside the dead zone and Spawn is outside of it and has his powers back. They look at each other and they're like, you come over here. You come over here. And Batman says, "We've both been lied to." And Spawn said, "Well, then prove it." Well, Batman takes a step over the line of the dead zone and says, "There. If you want to kill me, then kill me, or we can talk."
I mean, doesn't this sound so familiar? Every superhero meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, you're another, let's fight. Let's slug it out.
It's one of my movieisms.
What's it called?
Why can't we be friends?
Because they always end up being friends and teaming up.
Yep.
You can't have a team up without fighting first.
Yep. So they work to discover what this conspiracy is all about. And you know what? With any major crossover event involving Batman, of course, Joker has to come along for the ride.
Yeah.
I mean, every crossover I can think of that involved Batman, you had Batman Incredible Hulk, Batman Spider-Man, Batman Daredevil, Batman Captain America. All of them had the Joker in the story.
Well, I mean, the Joker is, and this is not arguable, it's indisputable, the Joker is the greatest comic book villain of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Don't argue. Don't.
Well, this story, no exception. So the end of this issue ends with a showdown between Batman, Spawn, and the Court of Owls enforcer, the Talon.
The Court of Owls has only been around since, I guess, they started in the New 52 when DC relaunched all those titles.
Yep.
They've grown on me.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, the battleground is the yard in Arkham Asylum.
Of course it is.
Right, and makes for an interesting battleground, and we see a lot of stuff happen here. And I actually like that they are making this into a mini-series and not just a one-off, because there's a lot of story to tell here. So Batman Spawn #1 ends up at our #1 spot with 4 shields out of 5.
No rounding.
No rounding.
Solid 4.
All right, so those are our picks for this week. Get them at your local comic book shop now. So what is going on this week, old man?
All right. It seems like the last month it's been short week, huge week. Short week, huge week. Hey, this week we've got it's an average week.
Okay.
Love it. But it's also a week in which I could say I'm looking forward to almost every book on our list. It's strong. You've got Gunslinger Spawn. You've got Junkyard Joe. You've got Vanish. I mean, that's a pretty clean slate for Image. You've got The Witcher #1. I'm not sure who's putting that out. From DC, you got DC versus Vampires, Deceased. Remember Stargirl, how we liked the first issue?
Oh, yeah.
#2's coming out. And since we're talking Frank Frazetta, what the hell? Frank Frazetta's Death Dealer #8's coming out.
All right. So, pretty big week this week.
Good stuff.
All right. So, get them at your local comic book shop right now. Okay, so that covers comic books. Now, let's talk a little bit about what the old man and I have going on for 2023.
I'm going to take a nap.
All right, so this Sunday is not a Whatnot auction because this Sunday is Christmas Day.
We're taking this week off.
Yeah, so not doing that. So our next Whatnot auction is going to be on New Year's Day night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Are you going out New Year's Eve? You're going to be crazy?
Probably, yeah.
Oh, Lordy.
Now that I think about it.
Well, you better get all your work done beforehand then.
So join us for that. Have a lot of great stuff, DC, Marvel items, independent stuff, probably throw in some Spawn. So be sure to join us for all that. So that's Whatnot. And, what else is going on for 2023 and with EMoney and the Old Man? Well, we have a lot of reaction videos coming up in the new year. We haven't done a whole lot of that. We did our Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, and we've kind of been taking a break from that. So next month, January, we have The Last of Us.
I'm stoked. I didn't play the game. I watched you play it quite a bit, but it's a post-apocalyptic zombies. Are they called zombies?
No, they're infected.
There's freaking zombies.
They're essentially.
Yeah. So I'm stoked. I love all zombies. I love zombies. I love zombies. I love post-apocalyptic stories. Love all that stuff. Books, TV shows, movies. If you do that kind of story, I'm down.
Right. So looking forward to that. Then, getting back to what we started doing in the first place. The Mandalorian Season 3 starts March 1st.
And boy, we get a lot of views on those reaction videos.
Absolutely.
People love their Star Wars.
So, Marvel Disney Plus shows that we're going to be doing in the new year. First up is going to be What If Season 2, of which we don't have a solid date on that just yet, but the schedule says early 2023. And then after that, Secret Invasion is going to be happening.
Kind of stoked about that.
Yeah. So we got a lot planned reaction video-wise for 2023. So first up, The Last of Us in January, so be sure to join us for that. All right. And, also, in 2023, we're going to be opening up our pop-up comic shop in probably late April as the days get warmer.
Early May, depends on the
Possibly.
weather.
Early May, and we're going to have a lot of new stuff for you guys, especially a lot of great new comic books. If you visited our store at both the pop-up shops and the conventions we've been doing, if you've been there, we're going to have all new stuff for you in the spring. All right.
We're even adding a lot of boxes of books between $1 and $10.
Right.
Because we picked up a couple collections. Got to get that stuff out there so you can look at it, buy it,
right.
see it.
So a lot of great stuff to look forward to. All right. So, and we'll keep you updated about any conventions or shows that we are going to be doing in the new year. All right. So with that being said, I think that about does it for this week's pop-up shop and our not pop-up, this week's back issues and our final back issues of 2022. So
no, we got one between Christmas and New Year's, don't we?
Oh, we do. Okay.
Got one more.
I'm sorry.
One more.
Okay. So one more to go. So we'll see you guys then. Merry Christmas, you filthy animals. And if I don't see you again, and a Happy New Year.
Well, true believers, check your weather report. If you don't know what to do at home, when the weather gets down to where it's in single digits type cold, Google it. there's things you're supposed to do, especially with your water in your house. You don't want your pipes to freeze.
Right.
Don't take advice from me, because I'm just an old man who doesn't know anything. Google that stuff. Find out what to do and do it. You won't regret that you did. You will regret possibly if you don't.